Okay, 3, 2, 1.
It's time for Radio Blab with Master Mel, the radio video podcast brought to you live. Join host Melodee Meyer and her special guests as they discuss personal mastery and what it takes to create a life you want, in a body you love, doing work that matters. Here's your host, Master Mel.
Woo! Yeah, here we are once again. You know, I love doing this show, and part of the reason why I love this show so much is because I get to talk with really great people. And I got to tell you, I am so busy most of the time that unfortunately I don't take the time to spend with these people otherwise. So it really gives me a good opportunity to talk with some old friends and make some new friends in a space where I get to share it with other people as well. So we are live on Blab at the moment, and I know this will be recorded for those people who can watch it on Blab, or of course on my website, and it's available on iTunes as well. So thank you so much for being here. And I'm talking about millennials and working with millennials. Are they empowered, or are they just entitled little brats? We're going to look at that today, and we're going to talk with our special guest today, Erica L. Martin. Now, Erica is an international speaker and a successful entrepreneur, having built several multiple six-figure businesses. Her passion is teaching others the mindset and strategies necessary to build their dream business and live a life they love. She loves wakeboarding, sunset beach walks, and learning salsa dancing, which I'd love to hear more about. So let's give it up for Erica. Woo woo.
Hey, thank you so much. That was quite an introduction. I appreciate it.
Well, you know, I appreciate you because really I've been watching you blossom over the last several years. And I've known you for quite a while, and I've seen so many things you've been doing, and just the success that you are rolling in. I am very, very impressed with you, Erica.
Oh, thank you so much. And I have to say, it is such an honor to be here, and you have been an integral part of that. So I really appreciate our friendship.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad. So it goes two ways.
It does.
So today, you know, I told you what I wanted to talk about, and that is because I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, as you know. I work with a lot of millennials. They're completely different than working with baby boomer. Oh, I want to talk about some of those differences and sort of peek inside like your head, because you are a very typical millennial that I work with, that so we can kind of peek behind the curtains and see how all that works. And really, so this show is really for people who either work with millennials or people who are millennials and how to create the success that they're looking for and so forth. And I know you've got lots of great tips for that too.
For sure, for sure. I'm definitely happy to shed some light into the millennial mindset and more, you know, the typical millennial mindset and the, I would say, probably atypical millennial mindset, the entrepreneurial, very driven, not the wantrepreneur as we talked about earlier.
Yeah. Okay, good. We'll get to that. First, let's sort of define the age group or the generation that we're talking about. Okay, so for those who aren't familiar with, generations are defined not just by number of years, but are really marked by big events that happen in history. So we've got, but I'm going to talk about years to begin with, just so we can, we know what we're talking about here. So the baby boomers which I know a lot of and hang out with a lot because they're super cool, are kind of that post-World War II, born anywhere from 1946 usually to 1964, right in there, all right? Then we've got Generation X, which is more like that 1965 to 1976. And then Millennials, of course, which is also known as Generation Y, are 77 to 95, and now we are 1996 and older is what's called the Generation Z or the Centennials.
Wow.
So there's the Millennials and then there's the Centennials. Okay? So these are, they're divided up. So like this next generation has really been like earmarked as the generation that is closely tied to September 11th, for instance. So that day marks the #1 generation defining it for millennials. And it's also how I generation or that Generation Z is like coming in after that fact. So because that's a very big time in history where things really shifted in our culture and so forth. So these cultural things really do sort of define generations. And it all depends on where you are, like geographically. But if we're talking about Americans, we seem to be tied very much by what's happening on a cultural level. So that's what we want to talk about. We're talking about that millennial generation, really from 1977 to 95 is when they were born. They're really coming into their own right now. They're a big part of the marketplace. They've experienced approximately that same life stage as people. Is this so? When I'm hearing a lot of noise, are you hearing that? Like, no, it's like somebody's eating. Maybe I'm hungry, and so that's how I hear it. Somebody's eating something, or I imagine that noise is. But anyway, if anybody else is hearing that, please put it in the chat box so I don't feel like I'm going crazy. Would you say most of your friends are in that same that same age group, and the people that you work with, where do they land usually?
I would say that most of my friends are in that millennial age group, that up and coming age group, and most of my friends are millennial entrepreneurs. However, oddly enough, most of my client base is actually kind of on that cusp between millennial and baby boomer. Okay. You know, we do work with, most of my clients are older than me.
Okay. So maybe that Generation X, like my generation, or the one a little bit older than me, the baby boomers.
Yes.
Okay.
And we do have some millennials in there, but I would say the vast majority is about your generation or that Generation X.
Okay. So the thing that people, there's been a lot of articles and stuff written about millennials, that they are really entitled and they're really like the me generation. Like they're all about what's an employer going to do for me? How is that going to satisfy me? And what are my passions? And what is it that I want? Really me generated. I actually heard that it was the baby boomers that created that, because as baby boomers, we were being brought up in families that were a little more strict, and many immigrant families. Mm-hmm. And so the baby boomers went, you know what, when we have kids, we're going to do it differently.
Yes.
We are going to give them everything that we didn't have.
Yes.
And we're going to really provide for them in a way that, we wish we'd been provided for. And that's how we ended up with this, like, entitled generation. What have you got to say about that?
Sure. I have to say that I completely agree with you. I think that you're right. When a generation goes through hardship, when someone goes through hardship, the last thing they want is to pass on that hardship to the person they love the most, and who other than their children to save from that hardship. But, what I think is kind of different is that I think it more crippled that generation just a bit, because it's the hardship that helps someone build the skill set to be able to achieve a life that they love. And then, for the long term and in the long game, to truly be able to have that long lasting happiness. Because, I think the baby boomer and potentially the Gen X parent was trying in the short term to provide that comfort and that support, and don't let the little bird fall out of the nest. And while that helped in the short term and made them feel really good, in the long term, I think it really crippled them, having gone through that at a young age when they could fall on their face and pick themselves back up. Versus now, where there's this overinflated sense of ego, a sense of entitlement, and a sense of what's the word? Invincibility, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, my experience is that there's a lot of where the generation before was more about hard work is what's going to get you there. That the millennials have figured out that, wow, it's not hard work. I don't want to work hard, but it's smart work, and it's the connections, and it's there's always this talk about hacking the system, finding the shortcut, and feels like to me as the older generation from the millennials is looking like, wow, you really don't want to work, when it's really not the case necessarily. Mm-hmm. It's just that they want to kind of hack it, and they want to figure out a way to get there sooner, faster, and make more money doing it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that that's completely accurate. I think instead of digging the ditch and just building the well by digging the ditch, they're going to sit outside of the ditch and figure out the best way for the ditch to be dug, so that when it's time to actually dig it, they have the tools.
Or even better yet, if it really should even happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it really, do we really need to dig that to get the water? Or can we find another way?
Yeah. Can we do it online in some way?
Exactly. So I was reading this thing about the generations that said that there are 3 key trends that shape the generations. And the key trends that shape the generations are parenting, technology, and economics.
Yep.
So that those are sort of the 3 categories that sort of define and are very, very different from generation to generation. Mm-hmm. So in the last 2 years, millennials have become the largest generation in the U.S. workforce.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. And that's why this is an important subject, because as employers or people who have businesses, if you're planning on hiring anyone, well, guess what? You're going to get to deal with this mindset.
Yes.
And when he
looks like Mel froze up there for a second.
Yeah, I think she did. She'll be calling back, I'm sure.
Okay, yeah, no worries. Well, I think I know where she's going with the millennials in the workforce, and how do you really deal with a millennial in the workforce? Especially if you're Gen Y or if you're a baby boomer, how do you wrap your head around that? And truly, a statistic that I read was that in the 1950s, when they were evaluating the United States and they were looking at who classified themselves as lower income, middle income, and then the white collar. And the majority was that middle income, the working class, and it was really glamorous to be blue collar and to work hard. And I think where the millennials come in is they like to be what I consider a blue-white collar. They're willing to work hard, but they want to know what the end game is. They want to know that they're going to be compensated well. They want to know that they're going to have quality of life and time and flexibility and opportunity for growth. those are the things that the millennials really look for when coming on board to a company, as well as the new buzzword is the company culture. And they want to know that that vibes with them and that can embrace their creativity. And I think that, you know, for millennials like myself who are hard workers and do know the value of really putting it out there and going for it and doing what is necessary to be successful, those things are what inspire us to take action. Cool. So welcome back, Mel.
So we are going to go over the top 5 drivers for millennials. But first, before we do that, we'll do that a little bit later. What I want to do first is go a little bit into your history and for you to share really where it is, you know, what kind of businesses you've had and what kind of success you've done. You've had so far.
Sure.
So you started really young in business. Why don't you tell, I mean, I know your story, but I'd rather hear it all from you.
Oh, you're so sweet. Yes, you do know my whole story. So I'll try and give the cliff notes. I did start really young. I decided when I was 15 years old that I wanted to open a martial arts school as fast as possible. That became my goal. And my dad had a martial arts school, and I just really wanted to kind of follow that path. So I went
in martial arts for a while.
Yes, yeah, I had trained in martial arts since I was 6 years old. And so I went early to college. I was 16, I was taking college courses. And then my senior year of high school, I didn't even go. I just went straight to college, got credit for both, and like knocked it out. Talk about hacking the system, right?
See, that's what I'm talking about.
There you go. So then when I was 18, I had the opportunity to open my school and started with zero students, zero income. I knocked on people's doors. I got kicked out of different shopping centers for soliciting because I was talking about my martial arts program and trying to collect their information to enroll them. And within the first year of being in business and a lot of hustling, we were a multiple 6-figure business. I had well over 100 students. The business was thriving. I was featured on Tampa Bay Business Journal's top 30 under 30 when I was 20 years old. I was the youngest person to ever be featured. And things were going great. I was on different news channels, and it was awesome until the recession hit. And you know, that was a real wake up call for me. I think that was my millennial wake up call, because I have to be honest with you, Mel. There was a little bit of me in that time period between 18 and 20 before the recession that I was like, this business stuff is easy. What is everybody complaining about?
I love that. It's awesome.
Yeah, so the pride comes before the fall. And lesson learned. So the recession hit. That was very difficult on a business that's based on discretionary income. You know, parents are going, well, am I going to put my kid in martial arts or feed my family? So martial arts lost. But we were able to implement an after-school program, a summer camp program to adapt and overcome. And now that business is stronger than ever. So in 2014, I leveraged my experience with that business, which, by the way, completely blew up. I mean, we bought a 10,000 square foot facility. The business is thriving. Everything's going great. And I decided that I wanted to take it to the next level. So I started a consulting company where I now teach martial arts school owners across the country. We have a member in almost every state in the United States and some in Canada, how to implement programs like I did. And we use not only a structured system, but I also coach them on not just the system, but the mindset that it takes to adapt and overcome and be a successful entrepreneur. And as a result, been featured on a couple industry magazines. And in fact, I don't even know if you know this, Mel, but we will be featured on the cover, the only people that have been featured twice on the cover of an industry magazine called Dojo Nation Times. And this is our second consecutive year.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome.
Thanks so much.
See it and read all about it.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Okay, so what would you really, what would you say was the driving force for you in order to achieve all that you've achieved, really, with building your school at such a young age? I mean, what was the driving force? Because one thing I've found about millennials is that money is not the driving force.
Yeah, you know, I really had three driving forces. I'm going to be completely transparent with you. Money was one of them. I just didn't make a whole lot of it for a while. So my driving force was I wanted quality of life. I wanted to be able to do something I loved, and I wanted to be able to experience things in life that I wanted to experience, like travel and taking time off and flexibility. The second, which is really the most important to me, is I really wanted to have an opportunity to transform people's lives. I wanted to be able to make a difference. I wanted to know that the work I was doing was really helping people. And the third was I wanted to make really good money, especially being in an industry where I work with a lot of families, with kids. It would always break my heart to see a family that, you know, really needed what I had to offer in martial arts and couldn't afford it. And it really drove that into me at a young age, at 18, to say, when I decide to get married and have kids, I want to be able to financially provide for that child everything that they need. So money was a driving factor, but there was really a deeper why underneath that.
Yeah. Yes. So that's the thing that I've been learning, is that money is like a means to an end, to have an experience or a lifestyle.
Yes.
But not for the sake of, like, money to baby boomers was like in the mattress, like security, you know, that kind of thing. A really different type of motivation.
I completely agree.
Okay. So when you have, and these were the driving forces for you, but wouldn't you say that those are still what is driving you now?
I would definitely say that, yes, and it's just fulfilled in a different way, 100%. Quality of life, as a consultant, I get to travel anywhere, and have a lot of great experiences. And as an entrepreneur, it is a double-edged sword that, yes, you can have all the time to do what you want. Your schedule is flexible. But the other edge to the sword is that I am working a lot and really hard all the time to be successful. But at the same time, it's because, number two, I'm serving that purpose. I'm helping people. I'm passionate about it. So even though it is hard work, it's a labor of love. And, it's kind of like that old saying goes, if you love what you do, you never go to work. And then I happen to get paid for that. So that's great.
And get paid well.
Yes, very well.
Because you like to make your own rules.
I do. I really do.
And not have a ceiling on your income.
No. Yeah, exactly. I don't like to have a ceiling on anything, really. I'm just a rebel.
But I'm saying these things because these are things that I've been learning about millennials.
Yeah.
Like, that is pretty typical for that millennial mindset, which is one of, like, don't keep me down. Don't tell me what I can't do. Don't tell me what I can do with a ceiling on what I can do either. I want to set my own rules. I don't want your boundaries put on me, or even your ideas or your mindset put on me, which, does give that kind of entitled edge, but it also makes it seems like millennials wouldn't be good team players on the outside. But I've actually found that to be untrue as well, that they can actually be great team players if you know how to sort of appease those impulses of, like, independence and kind of self-righteous, like, almost, like you said before, it almost seems like it's ego, but it transcends ego because it's entitlement. It's like it's like the fish doesn't know that they're in water. You know, it's like, of course I can have whatever I want.
Right.
You know? Like it's just given. You know, of course I'm in water. What is water? You know, it's like it's just a part of their DNA almost.
Yeah, I think for millennials to be good team players, they have to buy into the vision. They have to buy into the bigger picture. That they'll work hard for the bigger picture and believe in the value of the team if there is a vision that's painted for them, I believe. You know, I know for me, certainly that's the way that I work. You know, the difference for me is that I have created a life and an infrastructure for myself where I can create the vision and execute the vision. But for, say, my staff members and my employees, which most of my employees have been older than me, but I know. I mean, I opened a business at 18, so kind of goes with the territory.
Everybody has a vision, unless you hired, you know, like young interns to help with the kids or whatever, right?
Yeah, but you know, I have worked with millennials and I have employed millennials, and I've found that when I, as a team leader, can paint a picture for them of what we are collectively working towards, and as long as I'm working towards that too, and you know, we call it integrity, that we're doing what we say we're going to do. There's not it's the era of do as I say, not as I do, does not fly with millennials. There has to be an alignment and an integrity that the team leader says, this is what we're doing, and they lead from the front, not from the back.
Yeah, that would be a good baby boomer statement. You know, say what I do. You should be lucky you have a job. Do your job, or I'll find someone else who will.
Exactly.
Baby boomer management style.
Yeah, or you know, the whole concept that I'm the boss. I created the company. I took the liability. I can show up late and you can't. That just doesn't fly with millennials. Millennials want to know that their team leader is embodying the same culture, and then they can rally behind that and be really good workers.
Okay, so then I have a question for you. You know, we both have martial arts background, and there's this idea, and it's not just the martial arts industry, it's any company, small business, essentially, where, you know, you'd like to be able to be an absentee owner. How do you go about, as a business owner, own a business without being part of that team and leading from the front, as you say? Is it possible even with working with millennials?
I think that it is, and here's the thing. It takes a structure and it takes training to be able to do that. You have to build an infrastructure. It doesn't happen overnight, and that's the part that, of course, takes hard work and mistakes and due diligence. You know, one of the things that I teach my clients when I'm teaching them how to become the CEO is the 4 T's to success: train, trust, track, and thrive. Those are the 4 T's. So the training has to be in place first, and leading from the front. You have to be able to trust your team. Millennials feel that they have to be trusted. If you don't trust them, or if you're always micromanaging, it's not going to work. So
micromanaging is one of those dirty things.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody wants to be micromanaged. So you have to trust them and allow them to make their own mistakes and make them teachable moments, per se. Now, here's the key. You can train and trust all day long, but if you don't track it, that's where you see implosion. So what I recommend to my clients who are working towards that concept of becoming the absentee owner is, once your key person is trained and you trust them and they've made their fair share of mistakes, then as the owner, for you to be absentee, you have to check the vitals of the business through that person and make sure that person is executing the vision. And then that's where you get to the 4th T of thrive.
Right. So tell me more about thrive.
Thrive is where we all want to be. Thrive is where the business is systemized, that the vision is being executed because it's explicit, because it's being communicated. And then, you as the owner and the CEO of the company are able to live a life that you love, and whatever that means for you. For many people that I work with, it's financial freedom, it's time with their family, it's the ability to be able to leave their business and travel. And really, that's the same for me. That's what I want to do.
Business and that can still keep making money.
Exactly.
We're going to take a quick break. Erica, thank you so much for shedding light on this whole thing. So let's take a break just for a couple of minutes, and we will be right back with more with our millennial star, Erica L. Martin.
Radio Blab with Master Mel will be back right after this. Stand Up and Speak Up with host Walt Grassel, sharing stories of people who have taken steps to overcome their fears and now lead stronger, more fulfilling lives. Are you ready to take that first step towards a different life? Join Walt as he shares his tales of triumph over stage fright and public speaking. Walt has performed stand-up comedy at the Hollywood Improv, as well as the Flamingo in Las Vegas, and wants to help you conquer whatever is holding you back. Join him and his guests for Stand Up and Speak Up every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern on Radio Star Worldwide and on demand 24/7. It's people's secrets that make them interesting. People have been trusting their secrets to longtime business journalist Judy Schreiner for the last 25 years. And now you can hear them too on Radio Star Worldwide every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You're listening to Master Mel and Radio Blab. And now, back to Master Mel.
Do we call you Master Erica yet? Are we there yet, Erica?
I'm not. I am only a 4th degree. 5th degree is master for us.
Yeah. I think in my system it's, I know. In our system it's 4th degree and up. But I am a 5th degree now. And are you still practicing your martial arts?
I do, occasionally. Not as intensive as before, but I definitely still...
Guest appearances at your dojo, I'm sure.
Oh, definitely. Yes.
Miss you?
Yes, and I miss them too, for sure.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about in martial arts and how it pertains to how it's developed you as a person? I mean, part of who you are and your drive and your follow through and your, there's so much about you that I think might even come from some of that early martial arts training. Can you tell us a little bit about that, what it means to be a black belt and how that's influenced your life?
Oh, for sure. And, and I can tell you very specifically for me as a person, I was never a natural athlete. I would say that I was an above average athlete, but I wasn't somebody that could pick things up right away, really easily. Those people that watch a backflip and can just do it.
No, I don't like those people.
Yeah, like I'm the fail video of that. I have the confidence that I can do it, and then
I'm in the blooper video of that.
Yeah, exactly. So for me in martial arts, I always had to work really, really, really hard, and I had to drill things over and over and over again. And then couple that with the fact that my dad was the head, owner of the school and the president of the organization. So for me, contrary to most millennials, I had to work 2, 3, 4, 5 times as hard to earn the same thing as everybody else because, he wanted me to be undeniably the best when I was awarded something. I had to earn it. So for me in martial arts, I'm really thankful for that and that he was hard on me, per se. Because it gave me that ability to say, okay, I may not get this the first time, but I don't take no for an answer. And I don't take I can't for an answer. And the practice, the physicality of martial arts really helped instill that on me in a really core and fundamental level. And it's been really easy for me to apply that same mentality to my different business and ventures, or I mean, really anything that I want to accomplish in my life. I do have that confidence that, like, no matter what it takes, I'm going to be able to do it, because I just don't take no for an answer. And it never usually happens on the first try.
Oh, that's a good thing to learn. Yeah. We call it having a black belt attitude.
Yes, exactly.
And being always in a learning mode, or what I call, it's a black belt attitude with a white belt mind, where your mind is open and it's saying, I don't know, and it's learning. That's that white belt mind, but that black belt attitude, which is can do.
Yeah, and I think that for me particularly, just never even allowed the entitlement to enter my mind, because, you know, if I'm constantly learning from a white belt and having a white belt mentality, then I have to always humble myself. It doesn't matter how high up I am or how many ranks I've earned. I can always learn something new. So I think that in and of itself allowed me to be open-minded to different opinions or different ways of doing things. And also, Master Mel, it also helped me develop a tolerance for criticism. And yeah, because in martial arts, when you're learning, there's a right way to do something and a wrong way to do something. And if you're going to be a black belt, you really have to hear a lot of what you're doing wrong, very frequently, and sometimes not very tactfully. You know, I remember failing a test at my father's school. I worked so hard. I was in front of a black belt instructor, and I messed up one of the core fundamental, also the most simple exercises in our system. It was the first thing, it was the most important, and I failed miserably. I just froze. And then everything else in the test I did perfectly. So they went out and had a conference, and then they came back in and they failed me on my test, as they should have, according to our system. Yeah, and I was heartbroken. I went back and I cried, and I, was like, I want to quit martial arts. And, my dad sat me down and talked to me, because he's the head sensei, and he said, listen, that's not what we do here. You're going to go through failure. You're going to hear things that you don't want to hear. You're going to suck it up, and you're going to move forward. So I sucked it up and moved forward.
You learned that, like, how old were you at the time?
I was like 10.
That's what I'm talking about. Like, that is a safe place to learn a really hard lesson. Like, that's a tough lesson to learn at any age, but to learn it in a safe and loving environment, and learning it from your father, which, like you say, double-edged sword on that one. But, to learn it in, and that's what I love about a workshop, really. That's like dojo. You're creating this dojo where you get to go in and make mistakes and learn from them, and it's all going to be okay. Like, it's not a big deal. Yeah. So you don't get it that time, you'll get it next time, or the time after that.
And I was just going to say, I think it teaches value. If you just get everything all the time, then that's where the entitlement comes in. But if you have to work for it, and you have to work hard, and you don't just get it, or everybody doesn't just get it, it teaches value.
Yeah. One thing we do at our school is we test the kids, and the adults, we test them in their different things, and then we make sure that they have it before we do the performance in front of everyone. And then the performance, or that test in front of everyone, is really a test of, we already know they have the skills, but it's now about whether they actually can follow through and present them and stay confused regardless of what happens. So someone could make a mistake at their test and still pass, but it's all about how their attitude was during, during the mistake or after the mistake. So if they totally crumple because they blew it, and they just go, and they lay down on the floor and have a hissy, well, guess what? they're not progressing because they haven't learned that lesson, that exact lesson you're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I'm totally with you.
Yeah. So let's get into these top 5 drivers that I promised everyone we would get to about how to help millennials, really, if you want to hire them, or if you're working with them, or you've got them in your family, or you are one. When you can identify these drivers, it actually makes it simpler. At least when I learned these, it was like, oh, I see that, I get that. And then you can, even just tweak some of the things you're doing in your business a little bit to be able to accommodate these kinds of drivers and really help motivate your staff or motivate your coworker or your family member. Okay, and as I call these out and name them, Erica, I'd love to get your comments on them. Okay? So one of them is that the organization or the company treats me a person, not a number.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. I agree with that 100%.
Right? So what this means is like, how would that show up? How can we give some practical examples of what that means exactly?
Well, I mean, what that means is that whoever the leader is or the perceived leader takes a vested interest in each person that's underneath them. So it's not just like, hey, that guy's name is Sam. It's that they know what motivates Sam. They know a little bit about him. They ask questions. They take the time to get to know the person, not just that it's an employee that fills this job description.
Right.
Asking questions.
Yes. And calling people by their job, just go talk to the admin guy or the HR guy. Yeah. That's a person. Yeah. Good. Okay. That you like, or, if I were a millennial, that I like the type of work that I'm doing. This is a big one for millennials, isn't it?
It really is.
You gotta like what you're doing. So part of that is, that doesn't mean liking everything that they're doing.
Right.
That's not reasonable. But that that they like, and two millennials like to be able to say what it is that they do.
Yes.
And they like to share that with their friends, and it's all in their social media and all those things. And if they're embarrassed or they don't like what it is that they do, then that's incongruent. And that's one thing that millennials are not, is incongruent. They like to, right? They like to have that alignment. Okay, so as a millennial, most days I like to feel like I have made progress. Mm-hmm. Now, I love this when I learned this one, because it's like, as an employer, I want to see progress. Mm-hmm. Know that my millennial staff members also want to see progress was a huge win for me, because oh gosh, now I see what the downfall is, though, is that I don't always share what that progress is or let them know what progress looks like in the first place.
Yes.
So when I am able to identify that with them and say, hey, this is what success looks like for today, let's do this, and then at the end of the day go, wow, high five, we did that. We really important.
And I think what you just said is the key. We did that. It's not the company did that. It's not I as the owner did that. It's we collectively as a team. And you, Sam, who I know your name and your background, you were a part of that. Thank you for being a part of that. That's where it's at.
Yeah, like that team thing again. Yeah, Okay. I have confidence in the leadership of my organization. That's a big one for millennials, right? They don't want to have any old boss, or they don't want someone, like you said earlier, out of integrity. They want to be proud of who they work with, yes?
Yes, absolutely. They definitely
do. So we have a comment here that millennials think they don't need bosses. They think the world is working the wrong way. Yet no millennials have a solid plan to achieve success. That's really good. Thank you for sharing that, because really that is expressing a certain mindset out there about millennials. Like, it's almost like a prejudice against millennials, that y'all don't like care about anybody else's opinion. You don't have a plan to achieve success, but you think everybody else is doing it wrong. What have you got to say about that?
You know, I think it's 50% true. I'll give you 50%, Evan Taxi. So here's the 50%. Thanks for the prop, by the way. The 50% is this, that there are certain millennials that you're dead on. And those are what we like to call entrepreneurs. They want to be an entrepreneur and they want to put it on all their social media profiles and their Tinder account that they're entrepreneurs and all of that shenanigans. And then they fail forward and they do like really small things. But maybe they're happy. Maybe they only make themselves $2,000 a month. They have roommates and, you know, they're living like college kids. But I'd also like to point out that Gen X before us, Gen X, and the baby boomers, y'all did the same thing.
What you say? Right about this? Yes, we all.
You know,
we all got our generation. We were the ones. Yes. No, you're right. Baby boomers, they were the worst, right? With, you know, marching on Washington and all the things that they did, saying that the world was not working, and you know, that they should be the ones that are listened to. So you're right. Every generation's had that idea.
The difference is the millennial generation, the buzzword is this entrepreneur thing. Back in, you know, in the baby boomer era, it was the working class and the middle class, and that was the hot thing. There was a hot thing back then, and that's what it was. And for millennials, the hot thing is to be an entrepreneur. And, you know, that's great. And there are certain ones that can do it and do it successfully. And they do work hard and they are dedicated. And then there's ones that do it on a small scale. You're always going to see that spectrum.
Well, I'm always surprised when I meet the, you know, millennial that's all like, I want to be the owner. I want to be the owner. And if I were the manager, I would do this. And if I were the owner, blah, 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 blah. It's like there is an attitude of like that they think it's all that.
Yeah.
And as an owner, as an entrepreneur myself, it's like I almost feel bad for them because in a way they're missing an opportunity to learn and be mentored by other successful entrepreneurs because they got to go and find and make their own mistakes. Which I think there is value in making your own mistakes.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of value and team building that can happen when you have a mentor, when you have people that you go, wow,
Agreed.
I can learn something from this person, and you're with them for a while on their business, supporting them, helping them, so that you can learn how to build a team, how to do some of the things that maybe you're not that good at.
Yep.
So that and you can be stronger when you do go out on your own, and you've got support yourself. So if I was mentoring someone that wanted to have their own business, I would want to teach them all kinds of things and show them some shortcuts and things so that when they go out on their own, and then when they are on their own, then it's like, I support you 100%. You know, I'd love to, you know, I want to help them and make sure that they are successful because I was their mentor, you know?
Absolutely.
But if I have somebody who's up like, I don't want to do it on my own, I could do it better than you. It's like, bye.
Exactly.
and you know, you don't want them to fall flat on their face, but it's not a big surprise. You know? Right.
And, you know, I think sometimes that's exactly what needs to happen. For the millennial generation that wasn't allowed to fail as children, that's going to happen right now. It's going to happen as an adult. It's going to happen either way because that's life. And that's exactly what they need. They need to learn that lesson so that they can value the mentorship. I mean, what you're describing is, I mean, it happens all the time with millennials, but it just goes to show that they haven't learned to value that. And by missing out on that opportunity, whether it's with, you know, you as a mentor or whatever, how many other mentors they have that same attitude, at some point they'll learn. Because whatever their goals in life are, they're going to have to be successful and they have to learn from somebody. We all have to learn from somebody.
Well, and that's why I love hearing your story, because these are the right, learning how to fail. and learning like that. Wow, you need support, and you need mentors and teachers, and you need to spend your time on the floor practicing and training and so forth. I love it. Okay, we have one more to get to, and that of the top drivers. So we've got an organization that treats you like a person, not a number, that you feel like you're making progress, that you like the type of work, you have confidence in the leadership of the organization. And then the last one is that you feel valued by the organization.
Yes.
You know, the reason why I love this one is because, well, it's not just millennials that need that.
Yeah.
We all need that. It's just they're the ones that are asking for it.
Yeah.
And laughing. And for that, I appreciate it, because I really appreciate when people recognize they need and then they ask what they need. So that's what millennials are asking for when they're asking for their raise, when they're standing up for themselves, when they're acting all entitled. It's really them asking to be valued. And it's something that as a Generation X person myself, or baby boomers, we were told you're not to do that. You know, you keep quiet and just prove it, right? Instead of asking for what you want. So I appreciate them asking. I appreciate you asking. I appreciate the idea that they value themselves enough to really demand respect and just general, right? Just general respect and consideration, and seeing and holding up the value of each other. I think it's beautiful, actually.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, where I see people recognize value is in 3 areas. It's either time, money, or recognition. And many millennials will work so hard and so dedicated for that last one, for recognition. You know, it's funny. I think that millennials are more inclined, you know, granted, if the other things are in play, right? So we're on the 5th one. And if the other things are in play and they just need to feel valued. You know, I've spoken with some of my friends who are either millennial employees or even millennial entrepreneurs. But I can tell you, millennial employees, if they're passionate about what they're doing, that's almost 50% of it. And they'll just go for it. But if they're passionate and whoever the leader is or the boss doesn't ever give recognition in any way, doesn't give a pat on the back, doesn't give a certificate of approval that you did awesome, it's really disheartening for them, you know? And I think that there is a lot of value in the millennial generation. There's a lot of passion, there's a lot of fire, there's a lot of purpose, there's a lot of drive, but it's like you have to water the plant. It's not a cactus.
I like it. Water it. You gotta water those millennials. They sound like you gotta water the perennials and the millennials.
Yes, exactly.
And it's like any relationship, really. We need to put things in that emotional bank account. You know, in order to be able to reap the benefits, we have to be willing to pay the price. And the price that millennials are asking for are these 5 drivers, and provide a place where they love to work, and they are so loyal. They are such hard workers when you meet those criteria, when they feel like you're in integrity and you're a team player and all those things that I love them to death. I think they're fantastic. It's just, you know, it's getting over a little bit of that prejudice that some of us used to have, and some of the collective cultural things that are out there as well.
Yeah, Mel, it's reframing. You have 2 types of millennials. You have the millennial that hasn't learned their lesson yet. They're entitled. They're, you know, what Evan Taxi was talking about, the ones that, you know, want everything with no work. Okay, well, just look at them and go, oh, I'm so sorry. You haven't learned your lesson yet. I'm not going to be your mentor. Learn your lesson another place. You know, or you have the millennials that are very driven, purpose-driven, not afraid to work hard, but they need those 5 things that you just mentioned.
Yeah, great. Well, I hope this was helpful for everyone to have learned these things about millennials. Thank you so much for sharing them with us, Erica. It was great to have you on here. I can't wait to continue working with you. And for those of you who are listening on the radio, live or to the recording on iTunes, thank you for being here. Would love to hear any questions you have. We continue this conversation on Twitter. We can continue this conversation on my website, which is mastermel.com. Would love to talk more about how we can support the millennials, because guess what? They're going to be our bosses of us, perhaps, and even, and of course, the next generation. So let's give it up for the millennials. Empowered. Thanks, Erica. Take care.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Radio Blab with Master Mel. Live each week, Melodee Meyer empowers you to become a black belt in your business and life every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern or anytime 24/7 on RadiostarWorldwide.com.
All right. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Mr. Producer Craig. Thank you so much.
Yeah. No problem at all. And listening to this, at my quote unquote regular job, I have a guy that sits next to me who's, he's 30 years younger than me. And a lot of times we have these conversations about the millennials and about the baby boomers. And one of the things he said to me I thought was interesting. He looked at me, he said, "I'm sorry that I didn't grow up in the generation that you grew up in," because that just floored me. He was amazing. That it was amazing to me that he would say that as a quote unquote millennial. And we've had many, many conversations, and he's one of the ones that is constantly looking to find something to do, constantly looking to better himself. And he's a worker. You know, he's not one of the ones that are entitled, and he's very level-headed. He's a really, really good guy, and he just threw all my preconceptions of millennials out the window.
Wow.
Very cool.
I think if we give them a chance and we ask enough questions, then that's exactly what happens. You fall in love with them. You know, it's like, oh, they are awesome, and they mean really well. They really do.
Well, he said he also said he was disappointed at a lot of the people of his generation because of the entitlement mentality. So he was a good breath of fresh air, and you know we've known each other now for about 8 or 9 months, and we have tons of good conversations with generation versus generation. It's really cool.
Yeah, cool. I love that story. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, I used to be, have a little attitude with some of my employees that just like grow up, or like, and you meet someone who's 30 years old, still living at home, and like, and their parents are paying for their car or their gas or whatever. And you're like, really? And then they want to tell me how to, run my business, or, what you should do is like those words come out of their mouth, and when I like, show them some Hapkido right upside the head.
My mother taught me a good lesson when I was 17. I had just gotten my driver's license. I had just gotten a car. It was a beat up old 66 Mustang, but it was my car. Well, one day I went to my mother and I said, "Could I have some gas money?" And she looked at me. She goes, "You have a job, right?" I said, "Yeah." "Don't ask me for gas money." What? She threw that at me.
I got the same thing when I was 14. I got paid $5 an hour working for our family business, and I wanted some new clothes, and I got well, you make your own money, don't you?
Right.
I was like, oh. I guess I do.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I totally relate. And, I think a lot of the millennials that are successful are the ones that were raised with the baby boomer and Gen X value system. I know I certainly was.
Right. Yeah. And I was too. I've been working. I'm 56 now. I've been working since I was 14.
Yep.
Although now it seems to be a little bit different. There she is. It seems to be a little bit different now. My son is 15 and he's having a hard time trying to find even a part-time job, even volunteering for something. And he's getting a little frustrated, but I told him to hang in there and, things will work out. But things were different back in 1974 than they are now. as far as that goes.
Well, and that's why the millennials are really going, okay, I'm not going to line up for this job that everybody else is lining up for. I'm going to create my own.
Yep.
I'm going to do it my own way. And I am in charge of my own destiny. And I mean, I love that attitude. I love it. I've got a bit of it myself. It's when they add on things like, and I don't need anybody else or something.
Well, one of the things that another thing I took away from this, I never had considered the angle of putting a ceiling on your income. That hit me because I work the quote unquote regular job. I do this job and I do a third job as well. I have a very small, teeny tiny publishing company. We self-publish our books and we publish other people's books as well. But that just hit me when you said, I don't want anybody else to put a ceiling on my income. So that's just going to make me strive even more now to make sure that I don't have that ceiling. So thank you very much for that.
Good. You're always learning a little something. That's what I like about you, Craig, is you actually listen to what's going on and then you always apply something to yourself. Right. That's like a lifelong learner.
Yeah. At age 56, if you stop learning things, you might as well just go sit down and watch TV all day.
Yes. Pack up your bags.
Exactly.
Go home. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Well, Erica, right, thanks, Craig.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. See you next week.
Thanks. See you next week. And Erica, good job today. Appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This was super fun.
It was fun, right?
Yeah.
And didn't it go by really fast?
It really did. Yeah. It definitely did.
Our Evan Taxi retired already. Thank you for all your comments and stuff. That was really fun.
What?
I was thanking Evan Taxi for his comments and things during the show. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. I gotta go.
Okay.
I got more work to do.
All right.
Later. Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.